Sir,
Yeah, please ask.
sir, how does the backpropagation happen in the dense networks, in the one which you concatenate the previous layer's outputs with the next layer's output? You keep on concatenating like that and go on, sir. How does the backpropagation happen in that?
How does backpropagation happen in the?
In those dense networks where you concatenate the previous layer's
Okay, dense
outputs with
networks.
the... Yes,
Okay.
sir.
So exactly, say for example, when we bring in those layers to the next, say those maps to the next layer, same errors, whatever you have got here will go there. So it is like if you are bringing same one set of maps to say 3 layers. Okay, so that means because you are bringing the first set of maps to next layer and again to first set of maps to next second layer and to third layer. Okay, like that you are bringing 3 times, right? So 3 different layers. Then errors in all these 3 different layers will get added to the first layer. Okay. So
So
if
the
they are
error keeps on
replicated,
adding up.
yeah, error gets accumulated, added. So 3 times if you are replicating, that 3 errors gets added there.
So does it get added like double, 2 times, 3 times like that, or?
Yeah, as many times as you replicate, those many times error gets added.
Okay, sir.
So it's like error gets added means it directly passes here. Again from there, it directly passes here and so on. Yeah. Right. So let us start discussion on the applications. So I will quickly scan through these slides. If you find it, I hope you are able to see the slides now, right? I hope you are
Yes,
able
sir.
to see the slides.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes. So and the recording also is started. Okay. So let us yeah. Right, recording is also going on. So let us, I will scan through the slides here. So if you have any doubts, please stop me. Okay, I will, otherwise I will skip the slides and directly go to the points where you people have asked some doubts. See, one first question one of you have asked is why unnecessarily to reduce the dimensions of the feature maps and then increase. Okay, that I have discussed in the video lecture itself. So what is the issue in doing that? So if why don't we directly maintain the size? Say if you want to have the segmentation of H cross W finally, that is labels for each H cross W pixels, then why are we reducing the feature maps and then increasing their size? One of you can answer it.
The computational cost is very high if we
Yeah,
do
correct.
it in this way.
So if we want to maintain the feature map size, then what will happen? Each say computation from layer to layer. Say if you have F cross F filters and there are some C maps in the previous layer and C maps in the next layer, then the number of computations are H cross W into F cross F into C cross C. Okay, so those many computations are required. So the C square is dependent, C into C is because C maps in previous layer and C maps in next layer. And F cross F is because kernel size is F cross F. And this kernel has to be placed at each location of the H cross W image. So it gets multiplied with H cross W. So this big number, that is F cross F into C cross C, that much number is multiplied with H cross W for bringing one layer to another layer. So if H cross W is smaller, the number of computations are smaller. So that is why we reduce the feature dimension. That is one reason for reducing the feature dimension. And other also reason is, that is one main reason. In fact, the other reason is also that actually we, while reducing the feature dimension, you can compactly represent the features as well, right? So I suggest you people to watch the video lectures of Professor Fifi Lee team, Stanford video lectures as well, so that actually you can get some complimentary or better idea as well from them. Okay, so these slides are from them. Most of the slides are from them. So now somebody have asked regarding the max unpooling, right? So what is max unpooling? So see, while see for example in max pooling, what are we doing? So at the locations where the maximum in this 2 cross 2 is there, at that location we keep the same value. That means that value is carried out to the next layer, and all other values are, for example, neglected or not considered. So what will happen in, say, if you want to do back propagation here, so leave about max unpooling, but if you want to do back propagation here, what should happen? The value at 5, the error at 5, location of 5 has to go to the location of 5 in the higher dimensional feature map. Okay, and remaining at 1 and 2 and 3 in the first block, the error should be 0 because they have not contributed to the next layer. Okay, so this is how the max back propagation in max pooling happens. Now max unpooling is of similar nature. What we are trying to do, since this, while doing encoding, this is the pixel that is giving the higher information to pass to the next layer. What we want to do is, while doing decoding, whatever is the information that I have here, so for example 1 is the information I have here, that I want to put exactly the same information in the location where there was some substantial information in the pooling. Okay, so unpooling is done unpooling is done to fill the information in the pooled locations. While putting the information I put is from the previous layer. Okay, the information is not from the encoder, it is from the decoder alone. But the thing is, the location where I put comes from the encoder, because max pooling is done at that in encoding. Okay, so is that clear, those who have asked?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. Okay, so somebody, did anyone has doubt on transpose convolution? Like exactly we are doing convolution in say forward direction. What here we are doing is, see here we have a smaller dimensional feature map and we want to increase the dimension of the feature map. So, but this increasing the feature map dimension can be done through max unpooling or upsampling, etc. The other way of doing here now is to use say a filter that is weighted by the corresponding the score of the feature map. So for example, if I have 4 locations here, what I'm doing is, at say when I keep, say the filter is weighted by this location and puts at some say corresponding location, it is like the filter weighted by this is kept here, and the next filter that is weighted by it is kept with shift similarly exactly same as the shift in the original feature map, lower dimensional feature map, and so on. And then after putting these informations of each of these filters multiplied by the scores, we add in the overlapping regions, and we get a higher dimensional feature. Okay, so this operation in one dimension can be visualized better. So that's what is happening is, we just have a filter. So unlike we do like convolution operation where complete embedding is done here, what we do is we put the filter multiplied by the first score, and then the how much we want to shift from the center of previous location to the next location depends upon the stride. If we consider stride is equal to 1, then we don't shift it. If you want to consider stride 2, then we will shift it. That means how much upsampling we want to do, that determines that. Okay, so I am skipping these things now. So there is an intuition on putting it as transpose convolution, because if we consider as matrix operation, it becomes transpose. Fine. So I am skipping all the other details. So people have seen for a single object detection, what we are doing is, we are classification loss function. Anyway, we have cross entropy loss function added with bounding box coordinate regression. And some of you have asked having so this is all done because usually if you want to come up with an algorithm, some intuition has to be there, and some of the like initial works are trivially applying the existing frameworks. So if you want to apply classification here for object detection, classification frameworks, how do we do? So one solution is through sliding window. See, when some of you are telling that the say for each object there may be multiple bounding boxes giving the assigned to the object, but one bounding box that is maximally fitting the object is considered as the best bounding box. That is there in ground truth. So that is what we wanted to achieve. Okay, so to come up with the, I will directly go to FastRCNN, the final one. Yeah, so the object detection framework looks like this. So first we extract features. From features, what we want to get is the regions of interest. How do we get regions of interest? There are some computer vision methods, but they are time taking and computationally intensive. So people in the previous frameworks they used, but in this framework we are trying to learn the regions of interest as well. To learn the regions of interest, what we are doing, we are taking actually each region, say whether this region can be considered as an object region or not. That is the classification loss here. Here classification loss is simply objectness, that is whether there is an object or not. Okay, there is another cost function here, that is bounding box regression. So each region of interest we assume that it is rectangular, and we would like to give x, y and hw location for that region of interest, and that is like back compared with the ground truth x, y, hw, and the information is back propagated to adjust the appropriate bounding box locations, and for the objects that are present in regions of interest. But here this network is called region proposal network, and here we are not finding which class the object belongs to. What our interest is whether there is an object or not. Okay, so the problem is simpler now. So it is not completely we are not doing the object detection in a single stage. Okay, one stage we are doing whether there is an object or not, and what is its bounding box coordinates. Okay, so after we get that, what we are doing, we are giving these all ROIs are of different sizes. So we pass it through a wrapping or ROI pooling layer. So to get all of them into common size, once we get them into common size, what we do with that? So we try to classify each of them into different categories, which class they belongs to, and also we fine tune the bounding box regression. So this bounding box regression is taken after scale variation, like once from here to here we have done some wrapping, right? So all these things are taken care while doing this bounding box regression. Okay.
So
yeah.
What exactly is the second bounding box regression used for?
Yeah. See, first bounding box regression may not accurately predict XYHW. It may coarsely predict XYHW. So the second bounding box regression is to fine tune the XYHWs to get much more accurate XYHW.
So that it predicts from this previous bounding box regression loss only.
Yeah, it's already done, right? So previous bounding box regression we are already taken care in like all this those regions are already taken care. So that information is already there. So from coarse information to fine adjustment that we do in the FastRCNN training, the next training.
Okay.
Right.
So how does the error backpropagate from this region proposal network to the final ROI pooling network?
Yeah. So the like whatever is the forward operations, based on it, it gets backpropagated. So XYHW are anyway for different variables, right? So delta X, delta Y, delta H, delta W, exactly whatever is the forward transformation I am doing here, that transformation goes back, say computational graph, if we just sketch it for it, exactly then we can calculate what the what is the contribution of delta X, delta Y, delta H, delta W here, and that gets adjusted in now here in region proposal networks. So that is why while training this FastRCNN, what we do, first we train this region proposal network first. So we get some reasonably good region proposals. Once we train this region proposal networks, use them, keep this constant, and then train only FastRCNN block. That is class confidence as well as the regression fine tuning. And then once we train that, we fix that constant and then we again train this. Okay, so once we again train this, we fix this constant and train that. So like that it happens, 4 passes it goes.
Okay, sir. Got it.
Yeah. So while
Sir, how would the output of the RPN be?
reason proposal networks.
Yes, sir.
So output in the sense, so you have confidence either it's objectness or not. So probability will be 1 or 0,
Okay.
or in terms of 0 to 1, and then it gives XYHW for the proposals it suggests. Each of the proposal will.
But so it will generate a list of say 1,000 proposals. Okay,
Yeah.
1,000 proposals, say bounding boxes, and so this is used to extract those regions from the feature map, generate patches, and those patches go to the classifier.
Right. Those patches go to the, in some sense to the classifier, right?
Okay. Okay.
Right. With same size. That's why we are, since each of the classifiers.
ROE pooling.
Yeah. With same size, you make ROA pooling and then take them.
Okay.
Right? Right. So this is the cost function. See, in CNN literature, or to understand these deep learning frameworks, there are few very critical aspects. If you are able to understand them, I think it is very easy to understand these papers. So few such aspects are, one important thing is block diagram you should understand. From the block diagram, you should understand overall, say, intuition of the framework and what they are doing. Okay. Once you understand that, the second thing is the cost function you should understand. So for example, in what way did they have formulated the cost function, and based on that you can easily guess what the backpropagation and where the backpropagations are going on. Okay. Third thing you should understand is the architecture. Say for example, details in terms of number of layers and what kind of say whether they used conventional convolution layers or skip connections or dense blocks or inception modules or any such things. So these are few very important aspects that you should look at to understand the things. Okay, so the cost function here is like this. So you have a classification score where it is compared with the ground truth object. Say for example, if there is an object, it is 1. If there is no object, it is 0. And where there are only objects, there only bounding box regression is done. Please note that you may, say for example, you may have several proposals, but all these proposals may not come into the cost function. Only those proposals where there is a actual object, those only come into the cost function. And here also there may be suggestions for each of the location of object. 2-3 proposals may come, but still each of them will get the regression, but the one which is having high confidence only will stand finally. Okay. So, and the other things are, they take help of anchor boxes to do better regression. So this anchor boxes, what they do is, say for example, they are like this. So at each location where I can compare, say the object may be in different scales and different aspect ratios. So to take care of it, what people will do is they take different, say for example, they crop the region indifferently. So each is say with different, say usually they use 3 different scales and 3 different aspect ratios. So 2:1, 1:2, and 1:1. Assume that. Okay, that is 3 aspect ratios, and scale is probably some 1 point some 3 or 0.9 or something. I think I need to check, but I think 3 different scales, 3 different scales and 3 different aspect ratios. Usually scales very small, slightly around the base scale. Okay. So if there are k anchor boxes, that is 9 anchor boxes here, 3 into 3, 3 scales and 3 aspect ratios. Then at each location, how many say scores I get? 2k scores. That is for each anchor box, I will get a confidence. That means whether the object is in this shape here or in this shape here, in this shape here. So finally only one will have unique or higher confidence. That's why only one bounding box will come, even though there are several possibilities. Here, say for example, if you see for person, this one is the good bounding box. Okay, this say another aspect ratio may not fit here. So like that. Similarly, I have 4k coordinate regressions, because each of the K anchor boxes will have X, Y, and HW. So in fact, in some of the frameworks, also in FastRCN, I think, so delta H, delta W, delta X, delta Y they take. So that will, I think here X, Y, H, W, but in some of the frameworks, delta H, delta W they will do. That means move from the previous location, they will, the delta change from the previous location, they will try to find. Okay, so now once you get the region of interest, so what is done in FastRCN training, or say FastRCN training, is you given this ROI features, you send it to a classifier kind of thing, where you extract say better features and give it to one-dimensional feature vector, consider it as a flattened layer, give it to flattened layer and get one-dimensional feature vector, and use it for both classification score, which class it is, object is whether horse, person, or any other object, and the fine-tuning the coordinates. And as I discussed before, so here the window sizes are 128, so it is scales are double, so 1, 2, and 3, and aspect ratios are this as I discussed. So, and training is done in stage wise. So as I discussed, most of the frameworks where you have few different blocks, so block 1, block 2, block 3, it is done in step wise, so stage wise. First I will probably some fine tune for training will be done for this, independent training may be done for that, using the previous things constant and so on, and then overall fine tuning or back propagation happens. So this is done here also in the similar way. So keep one constant and train the other. Okay, so now if you have any doubts on object detection so far, you can tell now, otherwise I will move on. Shall we go ahead? Is it fine? Shall we go ahead or not? Okay, so I am going ahead, assuming it's fine. Okay, so now in mask RCNN, what people will do is, see, the interest of mask RCNN slightly is different. So they wanted to use this all object detection framework also to do instance segmentation. See, if I want to do instance segmentation, what should I do? I should have a segmentation framework. So anyway, in ROI pooling here, say in ROI pooling, I am getting the ROIs. So once I am getting ROIs, I can also use this for classification or even for exactly segmenting the object. So that is what is being done in the mask RCNN. So you can see now, if I get this object region, for example, I can use it through a small encoder decoder framework to, if I have the ground truth of segmentation here, I can do back propagate and exactly find the bound in that instance. And since I know that it is dog big classifications here, I know that this is a different instance than the other. Even if there are 3 dogs, I know the locations are different, so I can make a instance segmentation. That means each dog can be given different segmentation mask. Fine. So is it fine, or do you have any doubt on mask RCNN now?
So what does instance mean here?
Instance means, for example, if say 3 persons are here, okay, each person is an instance now. Okay, 3 cats are here, 3 bikes are here, 2 bikes are here. So each is an instance. So I would like to say, for example, if I just want to do segmentation, what I do? Semantic segmentation. Semantic segmentation is, semantically this bike is bike. Okay, both are bikes. So both bikes will have same color.
Okay.
So it is instance segmentation means I would like to put 2 different colors. I don't want, so I should also have a classification score behind, so that actually this person is different from that person, I should say. Then I will be able to do instance segmentation. If I don't want to do it, just I want to separate all persons and background, then semantic segmentation is good enough.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So I'm moving on. Okay. In fact, actually, these developments now lead to simplification of many other tasks. For example, pose estimation before. Say if I want to estimate poses, so they used to extract HOG feature vectors and then use them even parts. Say I want to separate head, hands, or body and other things. Okay, so and then they need to do better feature extraction and then identify the pose. Now, see, for example, like we are regressing the bounding box coordinates. I can also regress the joint coordinates. I can make one coordinate for this, one coordinate XY coordinates, one XY coordinate for this, and ground truth I may have for these now. Given these ground truths, I can train the network to predict the location of these joints first. Once I know the location of joints, then I can easily tell what the pose of the hand or pose of the person is. Okay, based on the joints where I put or the key points where I put. So now these frameworks will help us to identify key points and track the key points very effectively. Okay, so fast RCNN is extended with further like pose estimation as well. Okay, so now these are all fine. So if you have any doubts, now you can ask on object detection and probably CNN understanding as well. So no other questions? So if you have no other questions, I will move on to the regression, discussion on regression, logistic regression. So who are all there actually? So still I think some 8 students are also absent, I hope. So what about other branch students? Are they following or are they attending? Akash is there?
Yes, sir.
So what's happening? So you are able to follow and you are able to see the video lectures and all?
Yes, sir. I went through the video lectures.
Okay. So are you understanding?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So please bring to my notice because I think if you feel any difficulty, I should know so that I can add few things or like clarify few things. So any other students from other branches are there? So some PhD students are auditing, I hope. I think one more mechanical student is there, right? Akash, one more mechanical student is there, senior, your senior?
Sir, he is from civil.
Okay. Is he like auditing or is he crediting?
Crediting, he's crediting.
Okay, is he not there now?
I think, I don't know.
Okay, so you can talk to him and ask whether he's able to follow or what's happening.
Yes, sir.
Because you like those who may have slightly different background should be able to understand if they are really interested to pursue things.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And what about any other PhD students? Any PhD student are crediting? I don't think, right? So all are auditing only. So I hope all are auditing. So any of the PhD students, Vamsi or Vaishnavi, get clarified, like just check it once with them.
Yes, sir.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So now shall we move on to the discussion on the logistic regression? Or if you have any doubts, we can discuss. Okay. So today, I think yesterday I have sent a video lecture on GANs. So I suggest you people to look at it. Once you like follow, once you understand, like look at it, then probably I will discuss if you have any doubts on it. So GAN's theory and applications we will discuss in the next class. Okay, and also what I'm thinking is clustering I will start in the next class. In case if you have not many doubts on GANs, then I will start the discussion on the on clustering. Okay, so clustering in the sense mostly I may discuss 1 or 2 methods of clustering, not many. I hopefully will discuss K-means clustering and hierarchical clustering if possible. So after that, I think only RNNs I am thinking to discuss. So next, if this week we are able to discuss on clustering, and next week mostly I will start on RNNs. RNNs probably will take by this month end. We should be able to finish whatever we wanted to discuss. But if you have any doubts or if you need any additional topics, etc., then we will continue for some more time. Okay, that is my plan. So what do you think? Is it fine? Okay, so right, you are able to see notebook now?
Yes, sir.
Right. So let us discuss on the logistic regression. So you people have followed on linear regression, I hope. So what is for like, why did we move on to the regression after discussion of classification?
For prediction of continuous values.
Yeah. So for prediction or for estimation of continuous values. Okay. So prediction means usually next, say if I have some samples, some set of samples. Okay. So if there is a time series, for example, either stock market prices or even say COVID rate. So till today, it's what is the affected number of persons since last say 1 month or 2 months. Then what probably will be the next day number of persons that are infected. So that is that kind of thing, or stock market price, what will be for the next day. So that is prediction. Okay, so the regression model can also be done in that way. That means, say for example, if we give the cost up to previous times, say for example, y in that case is, so y equal to say xk plus 1, xt plus 1, for example. Okay, next instance, output at the next instance. And what the features are x1 up to xt. Okay, in that case you can predict say y as a function of, okay, x1 up to xt. Okay, so this is one way of posing a regression problem. Okay, there is another, what we have discussed in the class is a slightly different way, where you have actually x1 up to say x3, for example. This is the number of say bedrooms, and this is say location factor, and there is the area in square feet. Okay, then what is the price? Okay, this y is equal to what? How did we do? W transpose x, right? So this is what we have done in the previous discussion, right? So this is to find out the best or good fit for this W. We have applied linear regression. Yes or no? So what was the W update we got at say how to update W now through linear regression now? Wt plus 1 is equal to. So you people remember? Any of you remember what was the expression we got?
Wt minus
Wt minus
theta times summation of.
You're able to see notes now?
No, sir. The slides are there.
Yes. So yeah, I'm just sharing it now. Previously, you were able to see notes, I hope, right? No? Now you're able to see notes or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So previously, you have not seen notes when I shared it the first time?
No, sir, we could see.
You could see, right? Okay. So now WT plus 1, how do we write the linear regression now? What was the derivation we did in the last class? WT minus?
Summation, eta times summation.
Okay, summation over K, and then
YT minus
Y minus,
W transpose X
okay,
into XL.
into X. Okay, so if you people remember, if I want to update the jth component of W, that is, if I have W usually can be vector if we have more features. Okay, if X is a vector, W is also a vector. Now jth element of W, if you want to update, so I will consider jth element everywhere. So this, okay, this is anyway fine because both are vectors. Okay, so this is what we have derived in the previous class. This is stochastic gradient descent or batch gradient descent. The expression I have written, so is some of the MTech students should tell. Is
Batch.
it some of the MTech students?
Batch gradient descent, sir.
Yeah, this is batch gradient descent for regression. What kind of regression is this? So we have given some qualifier for this. What kind of regression is this? Some of the MTechs again, you people remember?
Linear regression, sir.
Yeah, very good. So this is linear regression. Why do we call it as linear regression? So any student, some
Multiplying
of the,
with
yeah,
multiplying with weights, sir, in a
Yeah,
linear manner.
we just write what we are doing is W1 into X1. Okay, if we expand it plus WD into XD. Okay, so because we are trying to write the cost or the estimate of cost. So this is what YEST we said, and we framed a cost function which is norm of YEST minus YT whole square. Okay, so this is why estimated cost or the estimated variable is linear sum of the features. So that's why we have written as linear regression, right? So now let us see what is logistic regression. See, why we want to go for logistic regression is this linear regression is say good for estimate. We introduce linear regression saying that all the time the output variables will not be class labels, and we want to have any real number to be estimated based on the features we are given, and this regression will serve that purpose, right? Now we go back and say that since we have some framework of regression, so based on the weighted sum of the features giving some value of the output, can we use this similar mapping or similar thing to get the probabilities, and will we be able to use this framework for classification? Okay, like exactly we were doing some classification based on likelihoods and other things in previous discussions. Can we use this to formulate a probability? Okay, or can we use it to do classification? So now let us go to the discussion of logistic regression. See, if I now want, say, assume that I have X features, okay, and I have some parameters, X are features, and I have parameters here. These parameters of regression. Given this, I want to formulate a probability. Okay, so W transpose X gives, in some sense, how much weight I need to give to each feature. So I consider W transpose X also. Okay, because to weigh them differently, but I want to form probability.
We can use sigmoid or softmax.
So we can use a sigmoid or softmax. You use here sigmoid. Okay, so to form this, say in sigmoid framework to probability, what should I do now? 1 by 1 plus, say if this is a number, I need the probability to be in 0 to 1. Say if W transpose X is high, what does it mean? Say if W transpose X is very high, what does it mean?
The probability of
Is high. So, for example, say in some sense in the previous classification scenarios, we said since we want to discuss on logistic regression, this is mainly discussion of logistic regression has come on how to apply this linear regression for classification. Okay, so in classification discussion previously, when we discussed about classification, what did we say? If W transpose X is greater than 0, put say X to 1 class, omega 1 class or C1 class, right? And then if W transpose X is less than 0, put it to C2 class. Right? This was the discussion we had in the previous lectures, right? So now I want to have a similar framework here. So, and then W transpose X being high. Oh, what's happening? Somebody else is doing this error. You're able to see some scratches here, right? So some scribblings.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think what happened? Let me see if I can. Oh, I think this is not going. Okay, let us bear with this. I think some other people are there other than in our class people. This is not changing. Okay, fine. Let us don't bother about it. I think we don't know the reason. Some scribblings are there. Just 1 minute.
People edited actually.
Some people have edited.
Yeah. There is a marker. Anyone can adjust, write something.
Okay. So
just I put some yellow mark that it's working.
Okay, yeah, right. So some of our students itself have done it.
Yeah, by mistakenly or something like that.
Okay. So who has done it? So you people also have some markers with you? Yeah, they could have. Okay, so let us go ahead in case if I think it will stay even in another sheet. So that is the problem. Okay, let us go ahead. If those who have done by mistake are yourself, please erase yourself. Samir, you try erasing your one. Okay, sure. I am just trying to unshare and share now. Let us see if that works.
Yellow mark is erased.
Erased, okay.
Yeah.
Fine, good. So I think it worked now. So let us go ahead with this now. Okay. So now, so we want to use this for classification. So now W transpose X is greater than 0 for omega 1 class or class 1 samples, and W transpose X is less than 0 implies X belongs to class 2. Okay. So now we want to satisfy all these conditions while framing, while translating this W transpose X to probability. Okay, because we assume that W transpose X is greater than 0 means that in this case the correlation is high, in this case correlation is low with W, but the mainly for us to put into different categories, we want to put both of them in different probabilities. So now so this sigmoid function has all these characteristics, right? So you just verify now whether the sigmoid function has all these. So if we have actually W transpose X is greater than 0, it means that it is class 1. So this problem, if W transpose X is very high, then what this value sigmoid will be? What will be the value of sigmoid if W transpose X is very high, that is infinite, for example?
1.
It is 1, and if it is minus infinity, that is negative, then it becomes
0.
0, right? So let us now, so we can put into two different classes now. Okay, so what I want to write is now in terms of probability that y equal to 1, given that x and w, okay, is equal to 1 by 1 plus e power minus w transpose x. Okay, that means if the class label, say assume that for this the class label is, okay, y equal to 1, and for this the class label is y equal to 0, assume that, then probability that y equal to 1 given x comma w is 1 by w transpose x plus w transpose x, right? E power minus w transpose x. Similarly, we can write the probability that y equal to 0 given x comma w as 1 by 1 plus e power minus w transpose x. Is it correct? What should I write here? So y equal to 0 will become what? So if I write this as h of wx, a function
1
of,
minus.
yeah, so this becomes 1
1
minus
minus.
h of wx. Okay, so this is 1 by 1 plus, sorry, 1 minus 1 by 1 plus e power minus w transpose, right? So now given these probabilities, so now what is our objective? We want to develop a classification framework, okay? And we usually, if for a classification framework to we want to identify that w which will agrees with respect to, say for example, this formulation, that is, it's if w transpose x is greater than 0, it has to put into probability to 1, or y equal to 1, and if w transpose x is less than 0, it has to put its probability to 0. Okay, so now I want to form the cost function or the objective function, right? How do you think I form the objective function now? Can you give any guess on how we will do this optimization?
Cross entropy loss.
Yeah, one way is we use cross entropy loss. Okay, so it is effectively that we are doing, but we will do slightly in different way now. Okay, how we do is, say first we formulate the likelihood. Say what I want to do is probability that y given w comma x. So let us form a likelihood, and we will see in the previous discussions when we want to find some parameters of a distribution. So we said that we have some set of samples, say 1000 samples with us, and we assume that these 1000 samples have come from a normal distribution of 0, mean and unit variance. And then if you want to find that mean and variance, okay, what did we use? You people remember?
Maximum likelihood estimation.
Right. So we have used maximum likelihood estimation. So now the approach here applied, used in logistic regression, is also maximum likelihood estimation. So it is also, W is like parameters, and we can form a likelihood now, P of y given w comma x. Okay. So on based, and we pose this finding W as a maximum likelihood estimation problem. Okay. So people do that in logistic regression. So now how do we formulate the likelihood P of y given w comma x? That means, see, I want to write a general probability P of y given w comma x. Here I have written specific probability, that is y equal to 1, what is the probability? Y equal to 0, what is the probability? I have written. Now combining these two, I want to write a specific probability. Then I want to write a general probability. So how do I write? Can you give me some suggestion on this?
So here y is equal to probability for y equal to y true value, right?
No, see, I don't want to bring in y true here. Okay, what I want to bring in here is, say if y equal to, so probability, it should be equal to, if y is 1, then I should get this as the probability. If y equal to 0, I should get this as the probability. I just want to write the probability of y. Assume that the other things are given, right? So you can leave that information of given for time being. I just want to write P of y. Assume that I have P of y equal to 1. I have P of y equal to 0. Given these two information, I want to write P of y.
Then y times hwx plus 1 minus y times 1
Okay.
minus h.
So what you are saying is hwx into y, okay, plus 1 minus y into 1 minus hwx. This what you said,
Use
right?
log of h of x and log of 1 minus h of x.
This what you said or not? Is it correct?
Yes.
Right. So in this case, what will happen now? So if, for example, if y equal to 1, okay, in that case, I will get this is anyway 0. So I will get only this term, hwx. Okay, if y equal to 0, in that case, this is 0, I will get this. This is correct. This is also fine. But what people prefer to write is,
Use log of h
yeah,
theta x.
see, y is anyway a binary number. We are considering y is a class label. So it is 0 or 1. So I would like to put it in the exponent. So, and I want to avoid this plus as well. Okay, because usually what we want to do when we want to maximize the likelihoods, we want to take log. When we want to take log, it is better that if we don't have this plus. Okay, so I somehow want to avoid this plus. Okay, so now can you tell me something that avoids this plus? Okay, this I don't want. This plus I want to avoid. Okay, so can I write any other way where the same thing will happen? So I want to get HW of x or the probability when it y equal to 1. I want to get 1 minus HW of x when probability say y equal to 0. I want to use into sign here because as I said, to maximize the likelihoods, I want to take the log likelihood to be maximized.
Power y and power 1 minus y.
Yeah, power y here, power 1 minus y here. Okay, so this is the usual expression people use for writing the likelihood. So in binary case especially. So if we have the probability for y equal to 1 and y equal to 0, people use this way to write the likelihood. So now this likelihood is for how many samples? So far, whatever we have defined, this likelihood is for how many samples?
Only one.
Only one sample. So if you want to write the total likelihood, usually say as we discussed the probability of D, all samples we have to write when we are writing about maximum likelihood estimation. You people remember? So we used all samples if we want to find the probability of all samples to be written and maximize the likelihood has to be maximized for not just for one sample, right? So if I have thousands of samples, all 1,000 samples should fit into that likelihood. Then that parameter which will fit gives the maximum likelihood or maximum probability for all 1,000 samples is the one. Those parameters are good parameters. So now what do I write? Yk given. Okay, is it fine or not? I will keep superscripts just to give a distinction with respect to the dimensions. What is xk and yk here? What are xk and yk here?
Sample.
Yeah, xk comma yk is okay. Training sample.
Eighth sample.
Yeah. And label. Okay, and its label. So now what do we do with this? So we got, now we can formulate the likelihood. So what we do is log likelihood is what we want. So L of W. So if you people remember L of theta we have written ln of P of D given. Okay. So here X means all xk. Okay. So given X. So then we can write, we take the log I hope it is clear what I am writing here. What do we do with this? Now I have written log likelihood, okay, of all samples. Okay, total likelihood I have written. And L of W, why did I write here? Why did I write L of W here? So why is W written here explicitly?
Because we want to minimize with respect to W.
Yeah. So now the question is,
Yeah.
should we need to minimize this or maximize this?
Maximize this.
Yeah, we have to maximize for finding W. Okay, so find W by maximizing likelihood. So can you suggest some technique now to maximize this? So what I want to do is WT plus 1 now. Okay, if I want to do update WT minus, so what should I do? So maximizing can be done through what? Can you
Plus.
tell? So I can find anyway
You
dou
put plus.
dou W I can find. Okay, but what do I do with this dou L by dou W?
You can add it to
Yeah.
WT.
So I can apply gradient ascent. Okay, this technique is called gradient ascent. Why we
So
call
why are you using the plus symbol?
Yeah, because
So we have to maximize this.
yeah, we are doing maximizing, right? So gradient descent will do minimizing. Okay. There we use the negative symbol, right? We move in the direction opposite to the gradient direction. Okay, in gradient descent, that means if you want to go down, we move in opposite direction. So if you want to move to the maximum location, we should move in the same direction. If gradient is positive, you should move here. If gradient is negative, okay, then you should move here. Okay, in opposite direction. Gradient is negative, okay, you move this direction. Gradient is positive, you move this direction. Or to reach this location. Fine. Okay. So now, say while I can differentiate this, assume that I differentiate it. So while differentiating anyway, I will apply log, expand all these things. Okay. So while differentiating anyway, I will get dou HW of XK by dou W, right? Because I will differentiate with respect to W, right? So I will get this. So can some of you tell what is this? Dou HW XK by dou W. What
X.
is HW?
Sigmoid gradient into X.
To have a general thing, I will write X now. So later we will use Ks and all.
Sigmoid gradient into X.
Right. Okay. So dou XW, what is this? Said it is derivative of now. Dou HW by dou W is what? Derivative of what?
Derivative of sigmoid into
Derivative of sigmoid into something, right? So what is derivative of sigmoid? This is sigmoid.
sigmoid into 1 minus sigmoid.
Yeah. Derivative of sigmoid is sigmoid into 1 minus sigmoid. Okay. So HW. Correct or not? Into what? So this is the sigmoid derivative.
Into
okay.
X.
Sigmoid. Into what?
Into X. No.
Right. Okay, into X. Okay. So that's all. Because is there any sign I should use? So this is anyway 1 by all this will happen. And then internal derivative is anyway no need. Okay, that's all. Okay. Right. So while doing a derivative, this derivative, I use this derivative. Okay, wherever necessary. So I leave it to you as an exercise to do the explicit derivatives. I will directly write the final answer. Okay. So I hope you people can do the derivative. You can expand log and then you can do derivatives and all. Okay, I leave it to you. Do little carefully so that you will get the same answer as I get now. I write now. So what do you think is the answer? You people, so I will directly probably write dou L by dou W now, just to give a okay, please cross check. Okay, I'm right now. I hope I'm writing correctly, but you cross check. Is the process clear here? What I am doing? Okay, this is what you get. Okay, after doing dou derivative, okay, and simplification, what you get will be this. Okay, so now using this, I can write Wt plus 1 as Wt. So what should I use now? Eta times okay. So if I am updating only jth component of W, then all this will be J. Okay. So now given this, so this is the final expression you get for logistic regression weight update. A parameter update. Usually logistic regression, we call that W's are parameters, not weights.
Sir, why won't we use dou h by dou w, sir? Like in this dou h by gradient, sigmoid's gradient is not there. In this, the sigmoid's gradient is not there, sir. So
Where it is not there?
In the last equation.
In the W in this last equation.
Yes, sir.
Sigmoid gradient is not there, you are saying?
Yes, sir. That should be there, no, sir.
No, it's already there, right? So dou L by dou W, I am writing here. So
Sir, it's there. After simplification, we get this expression.
Yeah, I'm writing simplification because when you do dou L by dou W, after expansion, you will get actually, say for example here, yk into ln of h of xk you will get, right?
Okay, sir.
Yk into ln of h of xk, if you differentiate, 1 by h of xk into internal derivative is dou h of xk by dou W you will get, right?
Yes, sir.
That I have written here.
Okay, sir.
So I have not expanded. You people want me to expand and write one step here.
No, no problem, sir.
So you can do that, so that you can fairly do one step after the other. You will get two terms. One term is ln of hw, another is ln of 1 minus hw. Okay. So in both terms, when you do internal derivatives, what you get is 1 by hw into dou h by dou w. Okay. Similarly, 1 by 1 minus hw into dou h by dou w you will get. Okay, minus sign. Okay. So at those locations you need. Okay, while doing this, you need this expression. So for internal derivatives, I will write here. Okay, you need this. Okay, and overall derivative here. Way to after simplification. Okay. So now this is what you have. So this is the expression of like weight parameter update expression in logistic regression. Say, is there any similarity of this with respect to the previous discussion we had for the linear regression? Do you see any similarity of this to the linear regression? So
just like differentiating mean square error.
And what is this actually batch gradient descent, or here finally it came into the batch gradient descent mode, or stochastic gradient descent?
Batch.
Okay. So you can also write parameter update in logistic regression. So by batch gradient descent. Okay, so it is gradient ascent, sorry, by batch gradient ascent now. Okay, so we followed gradient ascent for maximizing measurements. So now, can you answer now my question? So compared to the previous expression that we have written for the linear regression, okay, here. So this is the linear regression expression. This expression and final expression, this I have written here. Is there any difference that you see?
No, sir, except the plus and
Yeah,
minus.
here, yeah, plus sign. Just check once. I hope I also need to check whether it comes as plus or minus here. Overall, after finding the simplification, I hope here also you will get minus if I am not correct. Even though you do gradient descent, what you get finally is here you will get a minus here, and then plus into minus you will get minus here. Just check once. Okay. So please, all it is there correctly in my notes which I shared with you in Moodle. Okay, I will also correct it and send it or upload it in Moodle when I'm doing. But I think minus n will be there. So both expression will be exactly same. What the difference is? Only this term. Okay, what is this term here? Now what is HW of xk here in this case? What is
Sigmoid of
Yeah, here it is
X.
sigmoid 1 by 1 plus e power minus w transpose x. Okay, 1 by 1 this for logistic regression. And this is what for this is same expression is valid, but this term is HW of xk is equal to W transpose x. Okay, for linear regression. Okay, that is only the difference you will get. Okay.
Sir, we use logistic regression only for two-class classification.
Right. Correct. We use logistic regression for two-class classification. So
Okay, sir.
multi-class logistic regression is also there, but I'm not discussing now. So it can also be used for multi-class cases with some modifications to this derivation. So for example, y here is taking only two values, right? So that's why it is a two class. If you take y equal to three values, 1, 0, minus 1, then you can pose it for three class classification and so on. So accordingly, probabilities also you need to change. Okay. Fine. So this is the discussion for regression. Okay. So, but most of the cases in deep learning frameworks, what people use is mean square error for regression. So mean square error also does regression. So mean square error is anyway estimating the real variable is the regression, right? So mean square error also helps us to find out the output value that is real. So that is used usually in CNN frameworks. But these were the conventional regression frameworks people use widely. Okay.
Sir, your video is not visible, sir. Screen is not visible.
So now it is fine.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, fine. Okay. So probably now, if you have any questions, you ask. Otherwise, we will stop now. So regarding mini project evaluations, what do you think? So shall we give a little more time?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, because anyway we have now little more time. So we will postpone it to after our course, completion of our course. So hopefully May first week we will take it. May first week is good, or second week do you think is better?
Second week.
Yeah, second week we will take. So May around same either probably May 6th to 10th. During that time we will take 8th, 9th and 10th. Okay, May 8th, 9th and 10th we keep is the if I take your presentations here, we will take 8th, 9th and 10th. But I think otherwise May 10th is the deadline for your submission. So you have to submit, take it as a strict deadline because I think don't delay any further. So each of you record your own videos with your PPTs and probably up to say 20 minutes you can record, 15 to 20 minutes I would say. You record your whatever you have done. So put all the information in PPT first properly. Okay, the data sets, usually I probably will send one mail giving the different details required in PPT. but it should have the details of problem statement, the data set used, and the methodology you have adopted, and the understanding if you find any key insights onto your approach, and finally results and some analysis of your method and results. Okay, so and references. So these things you put properly in slides, and then make your own video on the slides, and then video presentation and send it.
So
Right.
those who are doing in teams, like
Yeah.
the team needs to send one video, right?
Yeah, a team need to send one video. So if you can coordinate and send one video, it is good. Otherwise, what you can do is say for 15 minutes, one student will speak, another 15 minutes, another student will speak.
Okay.
So you can accordingly you can have all slides, but you can discuss only slides which you mainly want to discuss.
Sir, isn't the presentation is in June?
No. Your presentations are not in June. Okay. So you come back probably in July and write exams. So for seniors, the presentations are in June. Okay, for those who are doing main projects, final year projects, for them presentations are in June. But I suggest we should wind up our course like all other requirements. So hopefully, I think May 2nd week is good enough. I hope for presentations, unless you really somebody is doing some good. What I suggest is, even if you want to do some good work, I suggest you wind up by May 2nd week. Okay, and then take some new projects or new like summer projects to do. It's likely that they may they may do some timeline on internship duration for BTech students as well, because I think some of you in fact all of you need to go for internships, right? So wind up everything by May 2nd week. So I don't want to postpone anything that is pending between you and me by like after May 10th. So wind up everything by May 10th, and then I will remember only you only after July 13th. So you can, meanwhile, if you have anything, you can then anyway talk to me, or you can get clarifications from me.
Sir, actually, like 18 people have only filled this MLIP project sheet. So still people are.
Okay, so I suggest actually by today itself you fill. Okay, those who have not filled, just fill it by today. So those who have not filled, probably we will reduce some marks in 1 or 2 days. And after say 1 day or 2 days, if you don't fill, I think we will not take your presentation itself. Okay, that means that you are not doing mini project. So in I request probably Meenu once to resend it, so that actually if any student doesn't come or complain that they didn't see it, etc.
Okay, sir.
I hope you people seen that, right? So please fill it, so that actually we'll get an overall idea, so that if any organizing things need to be taken care of, it can be taken. So in fact, all students have to give mini project presentations, right? So including MTechs. So you should, for MTechs, we'll take up the paper presentation, research paper presentation for IP lab separately. That we will discuss. That we said 27th, I hope, right? So that also, if you want, probably May 2nd week we'll wind up. So I don't want to put anything after May 10th for your either of your batches.
Actually, we have queuing theory presentations scheduled in May 2nd week, sir. Earlier you told on May 27th. So,
okay, so you want to go ahead with May 27th?
Yes, sir, 27th is fine.
Yes, sir, it's fine for us.
Okay, good. Let us go ahead then. It's fine. So for me, it is fine. Okay. So if nothing else is there, we can stop the, we can end the class now. So, thank you then.